It was supposed to be a regular Tuesday. Ethan Vale, billionaire CEO of Vale Enterprises, wasn't known for surprises. His life was built on strict schedules, endless meetings, and polished surfaces, both in business and in the palatial glass and stone mansion he called home. He wasn't even supposed to be there that morning. A last-minute investor call had been moved, and instead of heading straight to his downtown office, Ethan decided to return home for a quick change. But fate, as always, had other plans. The heavy front doors clicked open as his polished black shoes tapped against the marble. The house was unusually quiet, apart from the faint hum of the central air system and the chirping of birds outside the high windows. He stepped in, loosening his tie, and made his way to the hallway leading toward his private study. That's when he heard it, a soft, muffled sobbing. Faint, like someone was trying not to be heard. But it echoed just enough for his ears to catch. He paused, frowning. Who was crying in his house? He moved toward the sound. It came from the guest hallway. Room after room passed until finally he reached the small servant quarters, modest but well furnished. The door was cracked open just a bit, and inside he saw her, Maria, his maid of 6 months, quiet, efficient, and always polite. She kept to herself, barely made eye contact, and never spoke unless spoken to. Ethan knew next to nothing about her, except that she came highly recommended and worked tirelessly, and now there she was, sitting on the edge of her neatly made bed, still in her uniform. Her dark hair was unpinned and fell loosely around her face. She clutched a crumpled letter in her hands, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. He should have walked away. He knew it. This wasn't his place. But something about the rawness of it, the brokenness he saw in someone who always kept herself so guarded, it stopped him. He knocked gently. Maria jumped, wiping her face furiously. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't hear you come in. I'll return to my duties right away. Ethan stepped inside. It's okay. You don't need to pretend. She froze, clearly unsure how to respond. Her eyes darted to the floor, hands shaking as she tried to fold the letter, but it was already too wrinkled. Are you all right? He asked, his voice softer than usual. Maria gave a quick nod. Yes, sir. Just a personal matter. Nothing to concern you. But the lie was too thin. Her hands trembled. Her face was pale beneath the flushed red of crying. Ethan stepped closer, and without asking, gently took the letter from her hands. Please don't, she whispered, but it was too late. His eyes scanned the paper, and what he read made his jaw tighten. It was an eviction notice. Final. Her apartment, the place she shared with her younger brother, was being taken from them. Unpaid rent, no appeal left. She had 3 days to vacate. Ethan looked up. Why? Didn't you tell anyone? She shook her head. It's not your problem, I'm just the help. That phrase, just the help, hit him harder than it should have. She said it with such resignation, like she had trained herself to believe it. You've been working here for 6 months straight. Haven't taken a single day off. Never complained. Never asked for anything. Maria nodded, eyes still averted. That's the job, sir. Ethan sat beside her. Not close, just enough to share space. It felt strange, being in this tiny room, no glass walls or city views, just silence and 2 very different worlds colliding. I didn't know you had a brother. Maria's lips twitched. He's only 17. I've raised him since our mom passed. He wants to go to college next year. I wanted to help him get there. That's why I took this job. And now you're losing your home. She gave a weak laugh. Life's funny like that. Ethan didn't laugh. He stared at her, then at the letter again. His brain was already processing options, housing, loans, relocation, his usual mode when facing a problem. But something else was tugging at him, something emotional, unfamiliar. He saw her, really saw her, not as the maid who kept his penthouse sparkling, not as the background presence blending into his marble halls, but as a woman, young, burdened, and trying so damn hard to hold everything together. I'll take care of it, he said. Maria blinked. What? The rent, the eviction, your brother's education, I'll cover it. No, she said quickly, shaking her head. I can't accept charity. I didn't mean for you to read that. It's not charity. His voice grew firmer. It's humanity. There was a long pause. Maria looked at him with a strange expression, confused, suspicious, maybe even scared. She wasn't used to kindness that didn't come with a price. I don't trust easy, she said, her voice small. Especially not men with money. That hit harder than it should have. Ethan had never been accused of being cruel, but maybe indifference had its own kind of cruelty. I don't blame you, he said quietly. Silence stretched between them again, but this time it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt real, and neither of them knew it yet. But that morning, what started as a routine stop in his perfectly ordered life was the beginning of everything changing. Maria didn't sleep that night, even after Ethan left her room, with a strange gentleness she never would have expected from someone like him. Her mind spun in 100 directions. She replayed every word, every glance, wondering if it was real, if maybe, just maybe, someone like him could actually care. But she couldn't let herself believe it. People didn't do things without wanting something in return, especially rich men. She'd learned that the hard way before. Still, the next morning something had changed. She stepped into the kitchen and found breakfast already waiting, freshly made, not the usual setup by the chefs. A sticky note was attached to the tray in careful handwriting that didn't match the house staff's. Eat something. You're not a machine. E. Her heart stuttered. What the hell was happening? Ethan Vale, who barely spoke more than 3 words, a day to her, was now noticing her, trying to help. She pushed the tray away and walked straight to the laundry room, drowning herself in tasks to forget the feeling creeping under her skin. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in his study, with his phone pressed to his ear and a line of tension in his jaw. I need her lease paid up to date, quietly, no names, he said. I don't want her knowing it was me, the lawyer on the other end sighed. Ethan, this is highly irregular. So is watching someone cry in their room because they can't afford a roof. Do it. The call ended. Ethan stared at the skyline through the massive glass wall of his office, but the usual satisfaction wasn't there. The empire he built didn't feel impressive today. It felt empty, like a castle built too high, too far away from real people. Maria had cracked something open in him, not on purpose. She wasn't trying to impress him, flirt with him, or win him over. In fact, she seemed like she wanted to disappear. And yet, he couldn't stop thinking about her. That night, he returned home early. For the first time in years, he walked through his mansion not as a king, but as someone quietly observing a world he'd ignored. The flowers she watered, the spotless counters she polished, the small details that always seemed to magically fix themselves, they all bore her fingerprints. He found her in the garden, on her knees, pulling weeds from between the roses like they mattered. You don't have to do that, he said softly. She jumped again, eyes wide. Mr. Vale, I didn't hear you. Ethan, he corrected. You can call me Ethan. She hesitated. I'd rather not. It's safer that way. He tilted his head. Safer? Maria stood slowly, brushing dirt from her knees. When you start calling people by their first names, you start thinking you matter to them. I've done that before. And it always ends the same. He looked at her differently now, not just as a maid, but as a survivor, someone who'd clearly been let down, used, maybe worse. You've been hurt, he said quietly. Maria crossed her arms. And you haven't? Touché. He smiled just slightly. You know, you're the first person in a long time to talk to me like I'm not made of gold. Because you're not, she said flatly. You're made of glass. You live in a glass house with glass windows and glass rules. One wrong hit and it all shatters. Her words struck deeper than she knew. He didn't reply. Instead, he walked a few steps closer and offered her something unexpected. Truth. I lost someone once. A long time ago. She told me I'd forget her because I had too much money to feel pain. I didn't forget her. I just buried her under paperwork and contracts. Maria didn't speak. She just watched him. This man who once felt like a statue suddenly seemed more human. After a long pause, she asked, "Why are you helping me?" Ethan looked away. Because no one helped me when I needed it most. They stood there in the quiet garden, two people from completely different worlds connected by invisible wounds. "Your apartment's safe," he said at last. "Paid in full." Maria's eyes widened. "You said you wouldn't—" I said. "I didn't want credit. I never said I wouldn't do it." "You shouldn't have. I didn't ask." "I know," he cut in gently. "But you didn't have to." She swallowed hard, lips trembling. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." He turned to walk back toward the house. "Just don't disappear on me." And for the first time in years, Maria didn't feel like just the help. She felt seen. She wasn't ready to trust him, not yet. But something had shifted. A thread had been pulled. And once you tug on something fragile enough, eventually everything unravels. Maria began, avoiding him after that. It wasn't out of anger, but out of fear. The kind of fear that comes when life offers you something you've never had, and you're convinced it'll vanish the second you reach for it. She kept her head down, worked even harder, and went out of her way to avoid eye contact. But Ethan, he noticed, and it started to eat at him in a way that made no logical sense. He told himself it was just guilt. That's all. He'd intervened in her personal life, and now she was uncomfortable, understandable. That's what it had to be. But that theory shattered one evening when he returned home from a long meeting, shoulders tense, mind foggy, and found Maria sitting, outside barefoot on the back patio, her feet dipped into the pool, eyes closed. He'd never seen her look like that. Peaceful. Almost soft. He should have walked past. But something tugged at him again, and without thinking, he stepped outside. She heard him, of course. She always did. "I can leave if you want," she said without opening her eyes. "You don't have to." Silence then. "Why are you always showing up when I least expect you?" "Because you've become the only real thing in my house." That made her open her eyes. He wasn't looking at her the way most men did, not with hunger or pity, just honesty. And that was more terrifying than anything else. Maria pulled her feet from the water and stood. "You should stop this." "Stop what?" "Whatever this is. The notes, the meals, the favors, the interest." Ethan frowned. "I don't expect anything in return." "Then why do it?" "Because I care." That silenced her again. He stepped closer. "I know you don't trust people. I get it. But you're not invisible to me. You never were." Maria's chest tightened. "I've been invisible my whole life. People like you just don't see girls like me unless you're looking for someone to clean up your mess." Ethan didn't deny it. Because she was right. He had ignored her for months. She was background noise in his perfectly curated life. Until she wasn't. He took another step, slower this time. "Tell me something," he said. "Anything. Something. Real about you." She looked away, then whispered, "I used to sing." Ethan blinked. "What?" Maria gave a soft, bitter smile. "Before my mom died. Before life got complicated. I was going to be a singer. I even got accepted into a performing arts school. Then everything fell apart. What happened? My mom got sick, my dad left, I became the parent. Dreams don't feed a teenage boy or pay for medication. So I cleaned houses, I washed floors. I buried who I was and became what I needed to be." Ethan didn't know what to say. The weight of her words hung between them like a fog. "I haven't told anyone that in years," she added. He smiled gently. "Then I'm honored," she scoffed. "You don't get it. You'll go back to your boardrooms and billion-dollar deals and forget all of this ever happened." "You'll forget me." He shook his head. "I won't." "How can you be so sure?" "Because you changed something in me, and I don't even know how." Maria's walls cracked a little more. She hated how his voice sounded so sincere, how part of her wanted to believe him. But belief was dangerous. Hope was a trap. She stepped back. "I need to get back to work." "Maria." She paused. "I meant what I said. I'm not here to save you. I'm here to know you." Her throat tightened, but she said nothing, just turned and walked away, barefoot and quiet, back into the shadows of the house. Ethan watched her go, heart pounding with something he hadn't felt in years. Connection, but what he didn't see, what Maria kept hidden, was the trembling in her hands when she reached her room, or the silent tears that slid down her cheeks, because for the first time in forever, someone wasn't trying to fix her. They were trying to see her, and that scared her more than anything else. The next few days passed in a strange kind of quiet. Maria avoided the patio. Ethan noticed. She kept conversations short. Ethan noticed. She barely looked at him during meals, or while moving around the house, and he noticed all of it. He hated how much space she was starting to take up in his head. A woman who cleaned his floors and fixed his broken routines now felt more real to him than the entire board of directors he sat across from each week. But it wasn't just about Maria anymore. It was the feeling of being seen by her too. She didn't care about his net worth. She didn't worship his empire. And maybe for the first time in his life, Ethan realized how deeply alone he'd been. That changed the night he came home to find chaos waiting. The front gate had been left cracked open. The security guard was missing from the post. And when Ethan stepped into the foyer, he heard voices raised in sharp, angry tones. Then he saw him. Some guy, maybe late teens, wearing a hoodie and yelling at Maria in the hallway. His voice was laced with frustration and hurt. "You said he was just your boss. What the hell are you doing here, letting him control your life? Jeremy, please stop. Don't please me. You're letting him pay for our place like some kind of... Don't you dare finish that sentence," Maria snapped, her voice suddenly fierce. "I didn't ask him for a damn thing. I'm trying to survive, for both of us." Ethan stepped forward. "Is there a problem?" The boy turned, jaw tightening. "Yeah, you." Maria stepped between them instinctively. "Jeremy, go to my room, now." Her brother's face was still burning red with emotion, but he backed down, mostly because he saw something in her eyes, fear. He shoved past Ethan and disappeared down the hallway. Maria's hands were shaking again. She didn't look up. "I'm sorry," she murmured. Ethan exhaled. "You don't have to apologize. Is he okay?" "He's angry. He doesn't understand how bad things got. He thinks I'm letting you own me." "I don't want to own you, Maria." "I know," she whispered. "But he doesn't. And honestly, a small part of me doesn't trust it either." Her honesty hit him harder than he expected, and, weirdly, he respected her more for it. She turned away, voice flat now. "It's better if you stop helping." Ethan blinked. "Wait. What?" "You've done enough. The apartment's safe. Jeremy can go back to school. That's all I needed. Please just let things go back to normal." "There is no normal after this," Ethan said. "Not for me." Maria's eyes flicked to him finally, like she didn't expect that level of vulnerability from someone like him. "I don't want you to think I'm saving you," he continued. "I don't want you in my debt. I just—" "What?" she asked quietly. "You just— what?" "I want to be part of your life." There it was, not just unspoken interest, not just generosity out of guilt, but a confession. Raw, unfiltered, and far too dangerous for the fragile line Maria walked every day. She stared at him like he'd crossed a boundary she hadn't built high enough. Her voice broke when she spoke. "Again, you say that now, Ethan, but you don't know what it's like to love someone who's drowning." "I do," he said firmly, "and I've drowned alone more times than I can count." Maria shook her head. "You can walk away from this, back to your cars and your penthouse and your rich friends. I have no exit. This is my whole world." Ethan reached out, but she stepped back. "Don't," she whispered. "Please, just don't." And before he could say another word, she turned and walked away, back to the room she cleaned every day, back to the brother who didn't understand the cost of sacrifice, back to a life that refused to let her want more. And Ethan stood there, surrounded by everything he owned, feeling like he had nothing at all, because maybe love wasn't always about saving someone. Maybe it was about learning how not to lose them. For the next week, Maria barely said a word to him. She showed up to work like clockwork, on time, quiet, professional, but she moved like someone on autopilot. No more garden moments, no more accidental smiles. The softness Ethan had seen in her was gone, buried under layers of silence and distance. And Ethan, he was unraveling in his own way. He caught himself checking security cameras just to see if she was safe coming in. He skipped too high profile, The events just because the idea of mingling with people who only cared about wealth made him physically sick. Even his assistant noticed. "You okay, sir?" she asked one morning as he stared out the window, coffee untouched. "Define okay," he murmured. "Exactly." But it all came to a head one night when he found Maria's room empty. Her things were gone, her bed stripped. No note. No goodbye. Panic ripped through him so fast he almost didn't recognize the feeling. He checked her brother's school. She wasn't there. He called her old landlord. No answer. Finally, just before midnight, a knock sounded at his front door. He opened it, and there she was, soaked from rain, clothes wrinkled, eyes puffy from crying. Ethan stepped back, stunned. "Where have you been?" Maria walked inside slowly, dripping on his floor. "I needed space." "You disappeared. I didn't think you'd care this much." He stared at her. "You think I've been losing sleep over you for nothing?" She looked down. "I found a cheaper job, housekeeping at a smaller place, less pressure, no blurred lines." He almost laughed, but it came out bitter. "So that's what we are now? A blurred line?" Maria's voice cracked. "What else could we be? You're you, and I'm still the girl who wipes your fingerprints off glass walls." "Don't reduce yourself like that," Ethan said, stepping closer. "Then don't pretend. Like this is something it's not." "I never pretended, you did." That stopped her. Ethan's voice dropped. "You're scared, I get that. But don't punish me because I saw something real in you, something worth more than anything I've built. Maria blinked back tears. "You don't even know me." "Then let me." She shook her head, hair wet and clinging to her cheeks. "You'll regret it. People like me bring storms. We don't belong in mansions." He reached for her hand this time, and she didn't pull away. "I don't want someone who belongs here. I want someone who makes this place feel like something." For the first time, she didn't argue. She just stood there, hand in his, broken but breathing. Rain tapping against the glass walls, her chest rising and falling like she'd been holding it in for days. Then she whispered, "I'm tired, Ethan." He nodded. "Then let me carry some of it." And that night she stayed, not in the servants' quarters, but in the guest room down the hall from his. No promises were made, no lines were crossed, but something shifted, not in grand gestures or whispered confessions, but in the quiet presence of two people, broken in different ways, finding something dangerous and fragile. Hope. Of course, neither of them knew yet what was coming, the storm Maria warned about. It was already on its way, and it wasn't the kind that could be avoided with locked doors or rainproof glass. It was the kind that revealed everything. Maria thought the worst was over. She was wrong. Things had been strangely peaceful for 2 weeks. She and Ethan didn't define what they were, but there was a soft understanding in the way they spoke now, in the moments they shared, short glances in the hallway, shared coffee in the mornings, quiet talks under dim lighting when the rest of the house had gone still. For the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving. She was feeling again, and that terrified her more than anything. Then, everything shattered. It started with a headline. Billionaire CEO linked to live-in. Made in leaked photos. The article wasn't just gossip, it was invasive. A grainy photo taken through a long-range lens showed Maria in the backyard, barefoot, laughing near Ethan. Another showed her entering the guest wing of his home at night. By the time Maria saw it, her phone had already blown up with messages from an unknown number. "Gold digger. Sleeping your way to safety. How much did you charge him?" The worst part? The same number sent the photos before they hit the news. Maria's blood turned cold. She knew who did this. Jeremy. He hadn't approved of her staying, and in a fit of anger, or maybe protection, he'd snapped pictures when she wasn't looking. Then sold them. She stormed into the study where Ethan was on the phone, face like stone, voice clipped. "I don't care what it costs. Shut it down. Every outlet, every site. I want it buried by morning." He saw her in the doorway, and his voice softened. "I'll call you back." She stepped inside, trembling. "You saw it?" He nodded. "I'm handling it." "You shouldn't have to." "I want to." But Maria wasn't here to be protected. Not like this. Not at the cost of his name, his company, his reputation. "I think I should leave." His face dropped. No. I need to. You're being dragged because of me. I don't care. You should? Ethan stood, walking around the desk. Maria, this isn't your fault, it's mine. I brought you into a world that doesn't forgive women like you. I should have protected you better. Her voice cracked. He was my brother. My own brother did this. We'll deal with him. No, I will. She turned to leave, but Ethan caught her hand. You walk out now and you let them win, the media, the fear, your past. I'm not scared of the media, she said. I'm scared of needing someone. I'm scared of needing you. He paused, quiet, then gently said, needing someone doesn't make you weak. She looked at him, completely bare now. What if this ruins you? He didn't blink. Then it'll ruin me with you standing beside me, and that's a hell of a better ending than all the money in the world. Silence stretched between them like an answer. Neither had the strength to say aloud. Finally, Maria stepped into his arms, not out of surrender, but out of choice. She buried her face into his chest and let the tears fall, and Ethan held her like he'd been waiting his whole life for her to stop running. Later that night, Maria found Jeremy sitting on the stoop of their old apartment. His face was pale, his hands shaking. I didn't think it'd go viral, he said. I just wanted to scare him off. You didn't hurt him, she whispered. You hurt me. Jeremy looked up, eyes filled with regret. I was scared of losing you to his world. You never lost me, but now you might. Then she walked away. Not because she hated him, but because some lessons needed distance. The scandal didn't disappear overnight. There were whispers, judgment, and doors that tried to quietly close on Ethan's name. But he didn't let them. He stood by her, publicly. And when asked by a ruthless reporter if he had any regrets about being caught with the maid, Ethan Vale smiled and said, Yeah, I regret not seeing her sooner. Maria watched that clip 100 times. Each time it chipped away at the walls she'd spent years building. Eventually she sang again, not for fame, but for herself. Ethan built her a small studio in the East Wing. She filled it with music, laughter, and sometimes tears. She never became someone else. She didn't need to, because for the first time in her life she wasn't just surviving. She was wanted, chosen, loved, by the one man who had everything and still believed she was the missing piece.